Netflix's Queen Cleopatra is now officially the worst-rated show Netflix has ever made.
Good.
And it's in high competition to be worse than an even worse show that came out a couple of years ago called Santa Inc., which is, in my opinion, just as bad. Right now, on the tomato meter, 13% from critics, 1% audience score. It was actually at, it's actually gone down. That's 11% from critics, 2% from audience score. So they're also blaming review bombing, which is what they do anytime something like this comes out.
Yes.
And they never actually offer proof as to what makes something a review bomb. And I think both sides are guilty of this. Sure. I think it's just as logical that people that hate something could review bomb something because they hate it, and then the people that hate that you hate it will review bomb it the other direction because they like it, or they like it because you hate it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. If I understand correctly, there is significant historical evidence that Cleopatra was actually Greek, that she was from like Athens or something like that. So I think that is probably why people are like, hey, this is not historical.
Yeah.
So why are we going to watch
they're
someone's, what's the word? They're
fan fiction.
Yeah, fan fiction. That might be the one, or might work. I don't think that that's compelling. No. I just don't feel like, obviously, I mean, a 1. So maybe I'm onto something there with the idea that it's not compelling.
Yeah. So it's sitting now at 11% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 2% from audience score. Santa Inc. never even got a critics score, and 4% from audiences. So this is even better than that. Even though that show, this is even worse than that. And that show was literally the most cynical bit of garbage about the most not cynical time of year, and that was why that was so completely over the top and awful. But they're saying Netflix's new series hit with the lowest score in company history, and they try to make a vague argument as to why it would be the controversy over her skin color leads to review bombing, and I think we all know that that's not the case.
The thing is, like, I think that for the most part, it seems like audiences are mostly okay with reimagining characters if they're fake, if they're fiction, right? So there is an argument. It's a fictional character.
I mean,
et cetera,
even then,
blah,
I would
blah,
say that there's a lot of people that aren't all right with that.
There is, but I think that generally it doesn't strike people as offensive and as much of a problem as taking an actual historical figure and then rewriting history to placate your own ego.
Yeah.
Because that's really what this is. This is like, I want the person to look like me. It's the same thing that the Christians got forever get crap about doing with Jesus. A blue-eyed Jesus. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. He looked like he was from the Middle East. Because he was from the Middle East.
It seemed like I read through a bunch of the reviews from critics and audiences. It seems like they universally all hated the reenactments. Like, that seems to be the number one thing. Like, it's also funny in these cases, and again, I haven't seen it. I can't speak to it. Anytime a story like this comes up, everyone falls over themselves to be like, oh, the lead actress did great, which is them saying, I'm not a racist, but there's this problem with it, right? So it's like they're going out of their way while they're watching this. They're saying, like, look, the reenactments were horrible. Not the main actress.
They're going to call you names anyways, homie.
The other characters in it seem to be doing dinner theater. I'm like, I know what you meant. And that's fine, but like I don't think you're being genuine. I think you're being disingenuous because you're afraid of getting backlash from
That's
people.
what we call it, dog whistle.
Yeah. The funny thing is, here the proof to their argument being wrong is actually there, because there's another African Queen series from Netflix that came out prior to this that has almost universally high praise from critics and audiences.
Was it accurate and good?
Yes. So it was accurate, so there was no swapping. Therefore, they don't have a problem with it, right? It's the same reason we talk about why these characters, why do they never have a problem with stories that are told about African American characters when it's just about an African American character, as opposed to when they race swap.
Two super chats, $20 super chats. One from 1,000-Foot Derpend. What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear their lamentations of their women. Updated to 2023, to appease your enemies, see them take your homes, and hear the squalls of the trans women.
Accurate?
Yeah.
Mostly the crying of the trans women forced to use the men's bathroom.
And then there's one more there.
And then there's one more. Deshaun Watson, let's see, from Francisco Sanchez Jr. Deshaun Watson settled 23 or 24 lawsuits against him for lewd behavior when he played for the Houston Texans. He then got traded to the Cleveland Browns and signed a 5-year, $230 million contract.
Must be. Oh, that case. Holy crap. I forgot about that. Yes. You know, how long ago was that now? I have to look. Hold on. I'm going to look this up. How long ago was that case? That couldn't have been. I just had it here. Yeah, he had assault allegations. So it says, on March 16th, 2021, a Houston massage therapist filed a civil suit against, I thought he had like 5 or 6 claims against him, right? Like a bunch of women came forward and said that like he was unprofessional. I'll use that word for podcast safeties.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they said that he touched her with the tip of his you-know-what. Well, she was visiting his home, her home for treatment. So
you can't do that in a professional way.
Yeah, no, believe it or not.
There's not an actual professional way
to do that.
to sexually assault someone. In case you're wondering, guys. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just say no. I'm going to read this quote from The Guardian regarding what they're talking about with Queen Cleopatra. They say, the series puts little stock in the particular skin color of its lead, given uncertainty of her appearance. That's gaslighting.
Uncertainty.
That's gaslighting.
They're pretty certain.
In fact, it suggests that people tend to view Cleopatra as their proxy. The African-American academic, Professor Shelby P. Haley, says that her grandmother pictures her as black.
I'm not Greek.
Dr. Islam Issa says he imagines her as having the same pale brown skin and curly hair as he does, identifying her as one thing or another that amounts to little more than guesswork and presumes that race is or ever was a fixed concept.
We got a $20 super chat from Disco Jensen. POC claim Egyptian kings were black. Okay. Egyptians enslaved the Jews. Checkmate.
Got him.
What?
Got him.
What?
Yet, despite their solid credentials and insight into her origins, the talking heads regularly feel like fans rather than historians. Some of their insights resemble fan fiction, particularly when they speculate as to how great a lover Cleopatra must have been. Given the 2 millennia that have passed describing her and Caesar's tryst seems overly salacious. They seem to have no problem calling out that aspect of the fan fiction. But they don't want you calling out the other aspects of the fan fiction. You have fallen into ideological territory here. What I'm talking about, when I said this earlier, this is a byproduct. This is the natural outcome of the phrase, my truth, which is that you can fit anything to fit your belief system if you try hard enough and ignore all the facts to the contrary.
You call it my truth. I call it your anecdote.
There you go. Exactly. So,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
They say that Adele James plays a mixed race actor with a glorious crown of dark curls who brings a fierce intelligence to her portrayal of Cleopatra. It's just weird to me that they know why this bothers people. They do, but the charitable definition is that they're ignoring it. And they actually believe this. I don't think that's true. The less charitable definition is that they're gaslighting you. And they want you to feel like a bad person for not being okay with this. It wasn't okay with it when it was done in the past, going the other direction, and it doesn't make it right now. The difference is we should have learned from our mistakes at that point. And if you want to make a story like this, just tell either a fictional story or find a different queen that is less known, but perhaps more. In fact, wouldn't it be better?
They did tell a fictional story. It's called like a fictional story of the Wakanda.
Well, yes. Well, and then people get mad when you find out that was created by 2 Jewish men. Those characters were created by 2 Jewish men. Like they don't like that either.
I mean,
that's the thing. I mean, there were people that believe that Wakanda was a real place, so there's no accounting for taste or intelligence on that one. You see that? Do you see that?
Sincerely?
Yes. People
were a large group.
People were like looking to book tickets on Travelocity for Wakanda. They wanted hotel tickets in Wakanda.
Wow.
It's the world we live in these days. It was like when I was talking to you about that article where the person said the country of Africa. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
Dumb.
Yeah. And the number one complaint seems to be that they keep going back and forth about how bad most of the most of the actual reenactment scenes in this were. And then my favorite here was like, if you wanted actual proof that there could be, I bet you it's gone now. So all of the comments are kind of vague, but there was this one that I thought was, let me see if I can find it, guys. I'm going on the fly. Some of these comments are a little bit too
spicy.
Vague would be a better term. But there was one where it's like a guy named Steve. He says, "I am a black queen," and he was talking about. He's like, "This story really speaks to him," and I'm like, "You go off, queen." Like, it's,
good for you, Steve.
It's all for you, man. Do you think that this is going to keep happening?
No, not indefinitely.
You don't think they're going to keep doing that with stories like this?
No, there's going to be. I think that it eventually it'll fall out of favor. I don't know how long it's going to take, but eventually it'll fall out of favor.
I think the problem is that these companies aren't selling tickets, so it doesn't matter. Like, this just falls off the ledger sheet at Netflix as something like, oh well, we took a shot, it didn't work. If this lost them a ton of money at the box office, that would be one thing.
We got a $20 super chat from Braymont. Can we all agree? If Cleopatra was black, then Tom Cruise was actually the last samurai. I can agree.
Yes.
I can.
Perfect.
Thank you. Somebody said it.
You know,
the thing is,
Ken Watanabe came back recently and actually defended that movie. He was in that movie with him and basically said look, it was a product of its time, but it was a good movie. He defended that movie. And then some of the other examples are how many people, there's a lot of actors that have been race swapped for characters they clearly were not.
Yeah.
And we should have learned from that by now. But I'm kind of with you. I am of the middle ground variety when it comes to fictional characters. Especially if you get a top-notch actor, I'm usually okay with it. It doesn't bother me the same way it bothers a lot of other people. But I understand that what I'm allowing there is the gateway that allows this crap to happen.
Most people didn't care that Sam Jackson was Nick Fury.
No.
And Nick Fury was, he's a white guy in the comics for ages and ages. And
Not anymore, but originally.
Originally. And now when it was Sam Jackson, people were like, oh, Sam Jackson?
Because it's Sam Jackson.
Cool, all right.
Yeah. Man,
I'm down. I like him. He obviously performs the character perfectly well. I mean, he's a great actor. People kind of didn't care. Yeah.
Oh, somebody points out Morgan Freeman played God. Yes, in Bruce Almighty.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
I don't know that God is a color, but okay.
But they also
it's not like they re-swapped him.
They have here's a fun fact. They have Dennis Haysbert from he's the voice of I don't know what he's got a really deep voice. He's a car commercial guy, but he was also in the show The Unit. He plays God on Lucifer on the show Lucifer. It's really really good. But also you mentioned which one did you mention? You mentioned which actor?
I don't know.
No, which one did you just mention? You mentioned Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson. You mentioned Morgan Freeman.
You mentioned Morgan Freeman. Denzel Washington in Man on Fire. That was originally a white person in the first version of that movie. There's tons of examples of that. But if you're an actor with that pedigree, nobody cares.
Yeah, they're great actors. It's no one cares. But just like you said,
we have to acknowledge that by being okay with that, we make it possible for this historical crap to happen. I do believe that.
I don't know. And
thank you.
The reason I don't know is because of the fact that there is a distinction that can be made. Yeah. Look, these people did exist, and this was their life. To change it is to say that people that existed were different than they were. I don't have I do think that maybe it does open the door for some people, but I don't.
The people making it does.
I don't. Well, I don't know about that either. I think people making it would do the changes regardless of if they were fictional or not. I think the point is the changes, because the point is to change what has been shared history and shared popular culture. The changes in pop culture are motivated by a desire to take away something that unifies America generally, and by changing it and to say that it's no longer just American or it's just this, we have to change it to make it the new pop culture of America, So that's just my take on it.
I think that for a lot of them, it's just going to be one of those things that's going to get worse. I think they're going to keep being more bold with these decisions. As long as streaming is still a thing, this will keep happening.
Let's put it this way. It's kind of related to the Bud Light thing.
Yeah.
Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, he had this whole tweet thread where he went on about how Bud Light, they're not apologizing because they're too entwined with, and it's depending on if you want to think this is a conspiracy theory or not, they're too entwined with World Economic Forum and all these other things that it's like the messaging received by people does not matter. They're already invested in this thing. They're not going to turn back.
Just think Klaus Schwab drinks Bud Light. I don't think Klaus Schwab drinks Bud Light. That's my personal opinion. I imagine that he drinks something else.
Do lizard people drink Bud Light?
I imagine he drinks some kind of elixir that he believes will let him live forever, or at least live long enough until technology can catch up so that he can live forever.
Well, there is something like that. It starts with an A and ends with adrenochrome.
It starts with an A and ends with adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. Yes, exactly. So, look, guys, I understand that for me, because a lot of times I defend, like I'm always like, look, I wouldn't care if they race swap James Bond as long as they don't make the story about race. I do believe that is my own kind of, I'm admitting that I understand that it makes this stuff possible. And I do think it does. I think it's a little bit of that and a little bit of the fact that these people think of reality and truth as malleable because they're relativists, right? Like that.
Yes, there is a significant, I think, attitude of relativism that has kind of taken over popular culture, and there is no real good or bad except for power. And so if you have power and can exercise power, you're bad. If you don't have power and power is exercised over you, you are automatically good. And those are kind of the moral dynamics that we live in now.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.